Southern California, yeah.
Born and raised on DNA, laugh and cry to what we say. We hit you with that wordplay.
4053.
What episode are we on? D, they feeling like they be zombies, all dressed in Abercrombie.
SoCal DNA coming in live, 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night. COVID got you sitting inside, why not sip one and free your mind?
Cheap thrills, popping pills, stat cash, spend it fast.
Listen to all of Don's lies as Arjun act like he's surprised.
COVID got you sitting inside. Yo, man, I gotta tell you, man, it's not holding my wife down right now. I think she just left about a minute ago to go pick up some dog treats, and I think she's gonna go pick up some Taco Bell. She's been talking about it pretty much all day.
Wow. Taco Bell, man. Tell me, when you go to Taco Bell, it may not be your first choice, but what do you like to eat over there?
Yeah, so it's definitely not my first choice, right? But usually, I was a big fan of chalupas when they were hot. Chalupas are solid, but
they're expensive though. You know that?
Yeah. But like, this is back in the day when they first released it, where it came out to like $1 a pop.
Oh,
you know?
wow.
Yeah.
Man, when was this? 1989?
Hey man, I'm just saying. You know, I go deep. I go deep.
Yes.
Far back.
Clearly, before you were born. Yes.
But usually, if I do get the opportunity, or rather, I'm forced the opportunity of eating Taco Bell, I usually get like a Crunchwrap Supreme.
Ooh.
That's usually my jam.
Okay.
And,
okay.
You know, if I'm feeling a little extra hungry, you know, because they don't serve fries, you know, a proper side of some sort, usually get like one of those, not dollar menu, but like those cheaper end, like Nacho Bel Grande things to top it off.
Oh, yeah. But you know, it's funny. I think they do serve fries now, but they call it nacho fries.
It ain't the same.
No, it kind of is.
Is it?
It's like, it's basically like nice.
Are they chips or are they actual like fries?
No, they're actual fries, but they season them in a very good way. Like, they taste good. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like their version of like a side, right?
Got it.
And they can turn it into what you're looking for. The Nacho Bel Grande, they just call it a Nacho Fry Bel Grande. So it's just like the same thing, but instead of the chips, they throw in a bunch of fries.
Oh man,
like a chili cheese fries.
How often do you go to Taco Bell?
About maybe once every few weeks or so. So I see the menu, like I look at the new stuff.
Sure.
But I mentioned the pricing of the chalupa, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because I do like the chalupa there. When I had it last time, I thought it was great, but man, it's like $5 for one.
Whoa! Are you serious?
Yeah, dude. That's why I'm like, dude, like it's almost like a full-on $6 burger type situation.
Oh, you got to be committed to it.
You got to really want it. You know what I mean? Like you can't just be halvesies on it. Like, you know what? I'm committed to buying a chalupa today.
Oh yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, for the cheaper stuff, you could take a couple bites, and then, you know, when you're 2/3 through, you're like, I don't feel as guilty if I throw this away. But
there
for
you
a
go.
chalupa, dude, you're throwing away $1.
Man.
Come on now.
But see, the thing is, like, it's, to me, I know people buy it, and it's probably one of their most popular items, but for what you're getting, is it really worth it? I don't think so. Like, the best part of the chalupa is probably just the the crust, or the maybe that's what the chalupa is called, right? Like the bread portion of it, the carbs of it. Everything else is just kind of normal. Like, there's nothing special that's inside.
Yeah. I used to think they were a little more stuffed than a normal like hard shell taco, but I'm sure if you do, you know, a weight by weight analysis, it'd probably come out to be the same. You know. Yeah.
No, for sure.
Oh man, that brings me back too. Like those what is it? The double deckers that they all used to have. I don't know if they call them double deckers, but where it's like it's a hard shell taco standard, and then they'll do like a cheese layer and wrap it in a flour tortilla. That used to be my jam too.
Yeah, I don't think I've tried that before, but it sounds like something that was a big hit in the 90s. Like, everybody probably.
See, well, I'm stuck in the 90s for the tacos or Taco Bell. You know, that's where I'm stuck at.
Hey, that's nice. It's good to have a buddy stuck in the 90s, at least in one way or another. But you know, speaking of being stuck in older eras, one of your favorite rappers, Eminem, right? And I like Eminem as well. Just the other day when I was driving, I was on Spotify, and thanks to my good buddy over here, I'm able to just stream music, any song that I want, because of the Spotify Premium. No commercials, which is fantastic, phenomenal. And I thought, you know what? I haven't listened to Eminem in a long time. Let me go ahead and play something from him. I didn't want to play his recent music. I
Okay.
wanted to go back to something that I enjoyed. And I was looking at his top hits and I realized, you know what my favorite Eminem song is? Just guess. Just guess what my favorite track by Eminem is. Something from his, prime, of course. But what would you think my favorite is?
Well, I want to say Rap God, but you didn't listen to the latest stuff.
No, so Rap God, I like Rap God, but no, I'm talking about like even further back than Rap God, like pretty much when M was in his prime.
He's
Like,
featuring anybody?
no, this is a straight up pure
Straight up
Eminem
M?
track. Yeah, man.
So it's got to be. It's not Lose Yourself. You're not that poppy. Can't be that.
I did really like Lose Yourself. It was one of my favorites, but it's not Lose Yourself.
What about
Not
Stan?
Lose
It's got to
Yourself.
be Stan then.
It is not Stan.
Ah.
Never a huge fan of that track, even though I appreciated it, enjoyed it for what it was. But the track that I'm looking for here is actually called Without Me. Do you know what that is? Without Me?
No. Well, I'm sure if I hear it, it would be one of those
It's
songs that come back.
it's the one that starts with like two trailer park girls go around the outside, round the
Ah,
outside, round the outside.
Yeah.
It's man, I gotta say, like everything from the beat, which I'm sure
Yeah, see, like I
Yeah.
just had to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just great. And guess what? Eminem produced the beat as well, which is amazing
Really?
to me.
Well,
Yeah.
no, that reminds me of I forget what interview this was, but Kanye had an interview, and then when he was up and coming, he for some odd reason was working with Eminem. This is when Kanye was still like pure producer.
Mhm.
And what had happened was M left his drums in the studio, and according to Kanye, basically M's drums were so good he had to steal them. Like he went beyond that code of being someone that flipped things and was just like, I want those drums. So in the
Mm.
process of trying to copy those drums, M's guy comes in without even looking at Kanye or acknowledging him, takes the disc and just walks out.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah,
I've
no.
actually, yeah. I remember this story from like a long time ago, and I don't know what Eminem's thoughts were. Like when he was told about this,
Mhm.
I don't know if he was like, oh, you know what? That's fine. I respect Kanye. He's done a lot for the hip hop community. Totally cool to steal my drums. Go ahead, do it again. I'll give them to you for free. He might even have that mentality, but I just think Eminem was really something special, and it made me listen to this track to realize that. Because for the longest time, and I've been telling you too, I still like Eminem. It's not like I seek out his music, but whenever you share something from his recent albums, like the Darkness track or whatever it was
Sure.
called from before, I can tell he still has it. Of course, he can still rap like the best of them, but it never really piqued my interest too much.
Sure.
But listening to Without Me made me realize, man, Eminem was like the number one, not just hip hop act, but probably musical act in his era. Like in his prime, I don't think there was anybody more popular in the music scene.
Sure. Well, he
than
was
Eminem.
also very polarizing, very new. He didn't fit the typical mold at the time of his prime, or rather, he had a very long prime, but at the beginning of his prime, especially when he rose to the ranks, he was something special, man. And wanted to ask you this question. Thought about it when you were talking. Do you think that you appreciate Eminem's lyricism and production more when he was on some sort of substance compared to when he's sobered up?
Well, it's hard for me to tell, when he's actually on something. when I
Yeah,
listen
because
to a track.
even now, you're like, really, you're quite angry here. Hold on.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of my gripe about Eminem's
Sure.
music, because I think as a casual fan of Eminem,
Mhm.
which is kind of a diss to myself, but I'm going to say it anyways. As a casual fan of Eminem, I think he always comes off as aggressive. Like he has no chill in
Sure.
any of his
Well,
music.
same thing could be said of like DMX, right? Fucker's always growling at something, even if it's an
Yeah.
R&B song.
Yeah,
like
I think the difference is longevity. I think
Mhm.
DMX he faded so much that he doesn't even make new music anymore. But
Sure.
Eminem at this age, he's probably in his early 40s or something. He's still coming out with albums every few years. Like I think he came out with 2 recently.
Mhm.
So the fact that he still tries to keep himself relevant in hip hop by coming out with full length albums, I think makes me more critical of him. And I don't really have the same criticisms for DMX because I think DMX's prime with the Rough Riders and the one album that I bought from him was Grand Champ. It was a picture of the Pitbull on the cover with like the yellow font of DMX. I think it had a 50 Cent feature on there as well. It was a great time to be a hip hop fan back in the early 2000s. But I agree with you. Both X and Eminem come off as aggressive all the time. Um, but with M, it's like I don't know how much his substance abuse or even his addictions in the past really accentuated his music. I know it's a common
Mm.
thing for a lot of musicians to say, when I'm intoxicated by something, when I'm on something, I can really let loose musically and I can achieve notes and sounds and soundscapes for that matter that a sober me could never do.
Mhm.
But how does a audience member like myself really tell, oh, when you were recording or producing or writing this, you were clean or you were on something? Should we just make a generalization that, okay, if Eminem represents itself as kind of like a substance abuser, always on something, painkillers, whatever it may be, we just generally assume that during the production of the Eminem show, he was always into something. And by virtue of that, we can say, oh, when Eminem was in his prime in the early 2000s, he was on something and he was making his best music. Now that maybe he's cleaner and more sober and a better parent than he was before, maybe the music quality suffers, maybe he's not as popular. I don't know if it's really on us to make that differentiation between sober Eminem and intoxicated Eminem. But what do you think? Like, I think it's hard for me as a fan to say.
No, well, if I take a step back and even just go beyond music, you know, there are writers out there that will only write novels when they're intoxicated by drams of alcohol, or if there's particular um, like CEOs or entrepreneurs that only come up with particular ideas after they've, rolled a joint and enjoyed it thoroughly. So I think taking substances to alter one's perspective can alter some like the reality that we live in and open new gates to newer ideas that are a little bit atypical. And that's not to say that that can't be done when you're completely sober. I think it eases the um, opening of these avenues to take. So it's hard to say. Like if you want to talk about credit and all that, I wanted to ask you then. I was hoping you were going to say yes, but when he is in his older days when he was still Slim Shady, um,
Mhm.
did you like his music more? And then I wanted to attribute that to, can you attribute it to a person, or do you have to attribute it to that mindset that a particular substance prones you toward?
It's an interesting question, but let me just first give you a ton of credit for finding a way to use DRAM in the podcast. Now, for those of us who are not so sophisticated in our, alcohol related vernacular, why don't you go ahead and break down what DRAM means?
What is it? Dedicated memory? What is it? Something like that? Processing memory? Drams
Uh,
are, at least for my particular vocabulary, are drinks of whiskey or of some sort of alcoholic beverage. If you take
mm,
another step back,
mm,
it's a word that I learned very recently, and I'm very proud of it because it's such a simple word, but it has this tone to it that makes it sound super intense, something that's almost forceful sometimes. But then when you look up what it is, it's a little neat pour, a little neat pour.
mm,
So
mm.
it's what the D likes to use to get slippery every now and then. Pour multiple drams, multiple drams, And dude, that's what I've been doing. I don't. I mean, I think we could stray away a little bit from the Eminem or just the drug use and talk about personal drug use. But in order
Sure.
to like, so I'm trying to kind of like expand my palate. I think it'll help because I do food on the side. There's got to be a way for me to train my tongue and my senses to different flavor profiles and slight nuances that can occur, right? If you add like a little bit of a certain spice, or you have take something at a certain temperature, or if you water something down, how does that, affect the smell of it?
Mm.
So I've been pouring just multiple drams every night, just because I've been pouring different drams. So it'll be one bottle for the first one, something that I'm pretty particular in, where I know like the flavor profile, and then I'll pour another one of a completely different bourbon that'll help me distinguish between the two. And I think it's an interesting way of going about it because it's A, entertaining as fuck to me, but B, the nuances in this super subgenre of a particular alcohol can have so many differences. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, where like it could just be off by 1% of a particular grain, and the flavor profile could be so different that it could make you love it or hate it. This is what I think about at night. This is it's so good. It's so good.
Well, I think you are certainly an aficionado of whiskey and bourbon and liqueurs in general, and I learn from you every time we have a conversation. And dram is a vocabulary word that I did not know before. I used to view it as what you were trying to think of, which is dynamic random
Mmm.
access memory,
Mmm.
which is common. That's the memory. You see those cards that go into the PCs, into laptops. But
Pokemon.
yeah, uh, sure.
Sorry, I heard cards. I'm like, huh, that one slipped. Like it just came out.
There you go. That's the alacrity, the mental alacrity of the D.
So
very,
slippery.
very,
So
very,
slippery.
very, very slippery. Hard to catch. Hard to catch this one sometimes. But no, I think sometimes using different words that are a little esoteric and maybe have a niche community that
Mm.
likes to use it can be rather entertaining. Like I think of, instead of saying, "Oh, I want a mug of beer," what if you say a tankard of beer? And a
Mm.
tankard is kind of interesting because it makes you think of like medieval times, right? Like those huge kind of containers with a little bit of a lid on top, where you use the thumb to like take it off. Like
Sure.
you imagine like in like some kind of Oktoberfest in Germany. Everybody just has a tankard of beer and they're just filling it up over and over again. So it kind of there's like this connotation that's attached to words like tankard and dram that you can't just convey by saying, "Oh yeah, pour me a cup of your bourbon." What? Why say cup when you can say
Yeah,
dram?
that's almost humiliating. I'd be like, what? Fuck it, I'm gonna fill this sucker up. Good luck.
There you have it. There you have it. I think as we become more and more learned about these liqueurs, we become a little snobby,
I think
but it's
so.
not. But it's not to be confused with being snubbed, because a lot of people have been snubbed for the recent NBA All Star Game selection that's been going around. I'm sure a lot of our audience has heard about the NBA All Star Game coming up next weekend, actually next Sunday, and all the reserves have been chosen. All the starters were chosen before then. And every year, Don and I know this very well, you can't award everyone. A lot of people have great seasons, but there's a limited roster size in both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. So people are going to get left out. They're going to be snubbed. And this year was no different. Um, I think, just to kind of recap for the audience here, the starters that were voted in would be from the Western Conference: 17-time All-Star LeBron James. You have Stephen Curry, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Kawhi Leonard. I think Don and I would agree that that sounds reasonable. All five of those guys, given the way that the votes are broken down, 50% fan voting, 25% coaches, 25% players, it's reasonable. It makes sense.
Sure.
Eastern Conference, leading vote getter is 11-time All Star Kevin Durant. Then, not too far behind him, 2-time Kia MVP and Kia Defensive Player of the Year, reigning and defending, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Bradley Beal, Joel Embiid, and Kyrie Irving. Again, you can understand that. I mean, nothing really stands out too much to me there. Then we get to the reserves, and we're not going to go through all the names here for the reserves, but um, the one name that a lot of people were kind of saying, you know what, I can't believe this guy was left off of the Western Conference reserves. That guy was Devin Booker. And believe it or not, and this is my hot take for you, Don, even though you know I'm a Booker fan, I actually didn't think Booker was having such a great season this year. I would actually make the argument that the coaches got it right. And here's my justification. People may be wondering, well, come on. I mean, you have to reward Phoenix. They're doing such a phenomenal job this year. And I say to that, yes, they are doing a phenomenal job. But do you know why? It's because of Chris Paul. It's not because of Devin Booker. That's why when I saw that Chris Paul was the only Sun selected in the All-Star reserves, it made sense to me.
Sure. But what had happened was because Anthony Davis is hurt or injured, Devin Booker is the replacement now.
Yeah, exactly. So ultimately, I think that people who are clamoring for Devin Booker to be an All-Star, they were satiated. And Devin Booker, of course, he does deserve to be an All-Star.
Sure.
But just in my justification, I was thinking, if you were going to pick between the two, wouldn't it make more sense to give it to Chris Paul? Because Devin Booker's been there for 6 years now, or 7 years now. He's never made it to the playoffs. But now that Chris Paul is on the team, a proven leader, a proven floor general, he elevated this team to becoming a playoff team. So that's my 2 cents on this.
Definitely. I think the same could be said where, why Booker? Why not Ayton? Booker has more appeal, I get it. But because of the insertion of Chris Paul to Phoenix, we've seen both of them grow, Booker and Ayton, and their stats this year have been amazing.
No. See, you're actually completely wrong. I don't think Ayton deserves any part of this conversation whatsoever. I simply bring you to his averages this year. He's only averaging 14 points, Don.
Solid.
But let me break it down even further to you. Last year, he averaged 18 points.
It's all right. You got to give something to Chris Paul. He's averaging what? Let me see, 16. It's gonna be there's that 4. Look at Rudy Gobert. 14-point average. Simmons 16-point average. You round up.
Well, okay. I think if you're saying that Ayton deserves some recognition, perhaps over Booker, to be the second Sun as an All-Star, I see no credibility there. I don't think there's any grounding. There's no foundation for Ayton to be an All-Star this year. You beg to differ.
No. I'm just making noises.
That's what that is. Okay.
Well, I mean, all right. Well, something I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
How's Ingram doing? I haven't done any deep dive into their stats or anything. I'm interested in seeing what happened to Ingram.
I wouldn't say anything happened to him. He's having a great season. He's actually doing pretty much on par with Devin Booker. He's averaging 24, 5, and 5. So that's a great year. And I think it's just a matter of Zion is the younger of the two, between Ingram and himself, of course. Zion is more exciting, and being that this is his second year and he dramatically increased his points per game, he may be leading the league in field goal percentage, and his dominance just inside the paint kind of is unrivaled, right? I don't think anybody else is playing quite like him. Maybe Giannis comes close to dominating inside the paint. And I think those are the reasons why the coaches gave it to Zion over Ingram. But are you thinking that Ingram should have been a all-star starter? Not an all-star starter, but do you think he should have been a reserve?
No, I never really liked Ingram. I mean, I liked him because he was a Laker and all that. But we all kind of knew it was just a placeholder, that nothing would come of it. So I'm happy. I didn't think they were.
Hold on.
There was no way with that roster that they were going to get anywhere.
Oh, okay? So you're thinking that with Ingram we could never win a title?
No. I'm not saying with Ingram. I'm just saying in total, the whole team that we had. There was nowhere we were getting nowhere with it.
Oh, but okay, but that's a different conversation. I thought you were saying that
No,
you
not
didn't
purely
believe in
Ingram.
Ingram.
No, no,
Okay,
no,
okay, I
no.
see, I see. 'Cause- yeah,
It's good that Ingram now finally has the spotlight to shine somewhere. Unfortunately, he can't share the spotlight with who's your favorite player again? I blank on the name of these forgetful players.
Kobe Bryant.
No. How dare
Wow,
you?
you
How
you were
dare
no.
you?
How dare
How
you?
dare
Are you
you?
kidding me? Wait, no. Hold on,
No,
hold on. Don't
don't
this
turn this
around.
on me.
No.
All right, I'm like 4 drams
No.
in, but I caught that one. All
No.
right?
You were the one who was like forgetful player. I'm like, what? I'm hurt to hear
Oh,
that
yeah,
about a
well,
man
you're the
that
one
passed
saying.
away.
Oh my gosh.
Come
Oh
on.
my
Come
gosh.
on now. I can't believe you said that, Don. How could you call Kobe Bryant a forgetful player when the man passed away
All
just a
right,
year
hey,
ago?
everybody listening, go back like 20 seconds and hear this whole thing out again.
Yeah, please do.
Never came from my mouth. Never came from my mouth.
Sure.
I
But
don't
go
know.
ahead. Talk
No,
your shit.
I
Talk your
don't
shit
even
about
want to
Lonzo Ball.
anymore. It doesn't deserve the light of day in this podcast. All right, there is a ball that should probably, will eventually reach all-star potential. And someone, I mean, in the East, looking at the roster, I mean, it's set. Levine may be questionable, but he's having, you know, having good production this year.
Wait. Hold on. Levine may be questionable. What does that even mean?
There's other players there, like.
Are you kidding? Do you not realize Levine is having career numbers?
Which I get, but that's because he's playing in fucking Chicago, man.
No, not
Because
just
the
because
same
he's
thing could be
playing
said about Julius Randle. Why is Julius Randle there?
Julius Randle's having a phenomenal season.
Because he's playing in New York.
Not just because he's playing in New York, my friend. He is playing the best basketball he's ever played. Same goes for Levine.
We'll see when the injuries take over again.
Wow, man. Why are you so salty today, Don? Why can't you appreciate these young
I'm not
players?
liking this dram that I just poured. It's not sitting well with me.
See, this is like the 17th time you've said dram. I think that's not boding well for you right now. It's not boding well.
It's yeah.
So, okay, you're not a fan of Randall. You're not a fan of Zach LaVine. Who are you a fan of? Who do you like today?
On the East, or are we talking just in general?
Let's say on the East, because you've been shitting on these East players a lot.
I like Sabonis. Sabonis is solid. I feel like he's going to be a little more injury prone in the future. He's already had some issues slightly. So I'm hoping that doesn't hinder his continual growth. I do like Simmons. Simmons is solid, and the more he gains confidence in that shot, the more of a threat he'll become. All right, we'll leave it at that. Let's move forward.
Okay, Mr. Dram. Go ahead.
I like the Boston core of Tatum and Brown.
Here's something. I didn't know Jaylen Brown could be this good. You know, I didn't know he could.
And I did say he was going to be good. I remember during all the drafts, like, why do you like Brown so much? Why do you like him?
Yeah, that does sound like me. Just constantly questioning your authority. Yeah, like, why him? Why? Don't even like the guy.
It was a fucking 6th round. He's available.
Take him. Yeah, well, that's on me. That's definitely on me then. But I think Boston has a very good duo there, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. It's kind of cool to me that I could be wrong about this, but I think Brown and Ingram are from the same draft class. And I remember back in those days, we were thinking, who would be the better of the two, right? Like if Brown was a Laker, would we like that more than Ingram is a Laker? And vice versa. If Ingram was over there on the Celtics, would he be making the playoffs with them under Brad Stevens? It's kind of a fun experiment, but now we kind of see they're both comparable players. I think they're both good defenders. They can score in different ways. They can dish a little bit. They can rebound a little bit, and they play with a good ethic. So I like Jaylen Brown now. I think he's having a phenomenal year. Well-deserved first-time All-Star selection.
Yeah.
It sounds like
Ben Simmons was also in that draft class too. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, were they really? Wow.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons to me, he's kind of plateaued.
He's imperfect, and they're trying to chip away at whatever the hell is keeping him stuck.
He is imperfect, and I just don't think he can really get better.
Yeah,
Um,
but I'm
I
hopeful. That's why I like him so much. It's I don't think he has any problems when it comes to media. I think he is a phenomenal speaker whenever he gets the interview, and I feel like he is one of those, not necessarily floor general, but like budding floor generals or budding team leaders that for some odd reason just can't bloom yet. He's almost there, and like maybe they're overwatering him, or maybe he's just not getting enough sunlight. There's something. There's
okay,
something. You gotta
okay,
trust the process, and I'm trusting it because that setup Philadelphia has worked out for him, but it just hasn't given him the chip or the even the attempt at the chip yet. Um, I don't know.
well, barring any further strained metaphors for photosynthesis and Ben
Dram.
Simmons, yeah, yeah, I hear you loud and clear there. I just think we expect too much of Ben Simmons, and by we I mostly mean you.
Yeah.
I think Ben Simmons is showing us that he is not going to be the best player on the team. He's simply not that guy. I think in years past there were some parallels to him and LeBron James. There were some parallels to him and Magic Johnson, but given what he's done the past couple of years, and especially this year, I just don't think you can win a title when Ben Simmons is the best player on your team.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
not an issue. It's not necessarily a problem because, as you know, I think a lot of pundits are saying that Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons can be the dynamic duo that can catapult the 76ers over the Brooklyn Nets. Now,
Mm.
would you go that far? Would you say that they have a shot here to really win the East?
It's gonna come down to injuries, honestly. I want.
Mm,
I mean, I want Philadelphia to win, or rather, I don't want Brooklyn to win. Anybody can take them
mm,
down. I'm rooting for any team that goes against Brooklyn.
mm,
But it really does come down to injuries. If KD gets hurt, if Kyrie gets hurt, hell, even if Harden gets hurt somehow, I don't think he's ever had a really strenuous injury before, has he?
Harden, you mean?
Yeah, Harden.
He's never been out for too long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So he's never really faced something like that, but he is coming of age where, he gets more and more injury prone, right?
Mm,
Um,
mm,
and the same thing could be said about Embiid, who for some odd reason this year his back is made of steel. It's amazing,
yeah.
while playing solid minutes, and
Mm,
even Simmons with his own back. I think the key factor is going to be how Tobias Harris can produce for that team.
mm,
He's always been silent, never really hitting the spotlight. There are moments where he has taken the spotlight and shown that, he can propel a team forward or just will the team forward with his skill set.
mm.
But to ask that of him, on a daily basis when we enter the postseason is going to be quite tough, I
Mm. Yeah, I mean, Tobias Harris has always been a solid player.
think.
Um, Good scorer, reliable,
Mm-hmm.
especially on lesser teams. He's an easy 20 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and even now, he'll give you 20 on most nights.
Mm-hmm.
I just it's really hard for me to predict what's happening in the East because I expected Miami to be much better, and I'm sure you did as well,
Sure.
right? They're coming off of
Recency
uh,
bias for us. Yeah.
yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, they're coming off of a finals run, which hasn't been done in many years for them since like LeBron was there. And I was thinking, okay, they've firmly established themselves as the true gatekeepers in the East, led, of course, by Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. But for whatever reason, maybe it's injuries. I know Jimmy's missed some time. That's also the reason why he was snubbed off the All Star list this year. Maybe they just need more games to catch up now that everyone's starting to become healthy again. So that's a little bit surprising. But also, I don't know what to make of Brooklyn yet. I understand that when everyone's healthy, meaning the big three, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, they can beat almost any team in the league. I say
Yeah.
almost because I don't think we've seen them really be tested yet in a playoff like environment where they're going to be forced to shoot jumpers and they don't have a reliable big man presence to get easy buckets.
Sure.
What happens when, let's say, they go up against the Clippers? Just as an example, I know you hate the Clippers, but just as an example, if they're being checked by, let's say, Patrick Beverley, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George, how are they going to score consistently? Like, are they going to have an easy path to buckets? That's what I'm wondering.
Well, with Harden, any bucket is an easy bucket for him, or he makes it look easy. He works, but that step back, that patented Harden travel step back, is, I think, what'll help out, especially because they're gonna have to double team either KD or him at all points. Sometimes even Kyrie. So it's gonna have to depend on the depth, which is pretty thin, pretty shallow. Just like this Dram. Gotta refill soon.
Brooklyn's depth is shallow. I was watching a little bit of their game today. It was on ABC, and I saw some guy named Bruce Brown. Sounded like one of those level 55 overall, NBA 2K characters.
The ones he just automatically turned in for MT or coin.
Yeah, just sell them instantly. 250, that's fine. Give me 250 for that guy. So there's a lot of those on Brooklyn, and suffice to say, without KD tonight being injured because of his hamstring, without Kyrie tonight, it was basically Harden and a bunch of YMCA people, and they couldn't contend with Luka Doncic and Porzingis being back for the first time after a stretch of 3 games missed for his injury. I think Harden, of course, as you said, I agree with your points. Harden's capable of scoring at will when he has the ball in his hands. He can make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
But have we ever seen a team win a title based purely on offensive superiority? I don't think so. I don't think that's ever happened. I think every NBA championship team could hang their hat on defense. Maybe not the best defense possible, but they have to be at least above average defense to win a title.
Yeah, because the most nearest example I could provide would be Golden State, where they were just an offensive powerhouse, but they did have at least an above average defensive lineup during that period where they ran the NBA.
Dude, Andre Iguodala and Draymond Green,
exactly.
They were solid.
Well, Draymond, and then you had
Klay Thompson. Yeah,
these were all when they were healthy too. It's still shaky ankle Curry from time to time, but healthy nonetheless.
Absolutely. And so that's my main concern. I think, of course, records are meant to be broken. New things happen every season, but until I see them truly tested in the playoffs, I don't know what to make of the Nets. Like yourself, I will be rooting for Milwaukee to beat them. I'll be rooting for whatever their opposition is in the East to beat them. And if they do happen to make it to the finals, hopefully facing the Lakers, I think that'll be a very epic final showdown. But I'm concerned. I'm concerned because I don't know if the Lakers, even with a healthy Anthony Davis, have what it takes to outgun Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets. What do you make of that matchup, man? What do you think will happen?
I don't know. It's scary because it's hard to even project what the Lakers are going to be looking like. I'm hoping AD is taking extra time off just to make sure that he's back at 100% and they're not throwing him on the floor at 80% as they normally would. But we're not as fast of a team that I'd like us to be. We do run a decent pace, but I think Brooklyn's just going to be outrunning and outgunning us, as you had kind of alluded to earlier. So that frightens me because with Brooklyn's offensive capabilities, rather, I don't even know how to describe their offense right now, honestly. Aside from give it to Harden, give it to KD, give it to Kyrie. If none of them are on the court, good luck. Have fun out there, guys. I don't know, because even I question the Lakers' depth, to be honest. Just the other night, we had THT start, which was
Mhm.
fresh, a little concerning, right? As someone that's expecting AD to be there, and you're like, whoa, we're putting in THT instead.
Mhm.
But then he did excel more so than he normally does, and he's having a fantastic year for his role.
Sure.
But if you put him against KD, on those off minutes where AD has to rest, like the matchups don't make sense to me. Who's LeBron going to be guarding? Joe Harris, okay, because he needs to rest. Who's AD going to be guarding? You going to put him on KD, maybe?
Yeah, you bring up a lot of good questions, and I first say, isn't it kind of ironic we're talking about the Lakers' depth this year in a negative way? Because I think we were all thinking after the summer that we picked up Dennis Schroeder
Yeah,
and Montrezl Harrell, who's
yeah,
the reigning sixth man of the year,
sure.
we were thinking, oh yeah, like we got a better team this year than the year before. But you know what? One thing that doesn't get mentioned too often is what happens when those 1 year contract players go away.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the Dwight Howards, the JaVale McGee's, even
Mm-hmm.
the Rajon Rondos of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, they weren't getting paid too much and their role was kind of minimal throughout the season, but they mattered, man.
Oh
Especially
yeah.
during the playoffs, they mattered.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, without them, all three of them, McGee less so towards the end, but throughout the season, for sure.
Hmm.
Um, they were, the soul of the team, if you would. The ones that couldn't be seen, but were producing the the garbage stats or the garbage hustle that we tend to not appreciate as much as spectators. And to lose them is sad. They're getting nice paychecks elsewhere. I'll give them that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
you know, it's Schroeder, for example. If we talk about the new pickups, Schroeder is okay. He's good, but
Hmm.
do we necessarily need him for what he can do? I don't think so. He does help out the offense, though, especially when LeBron's not on the court. And he does provide a burst of energy whenever he does get the ball. Harrell, I like Harrell. Harrell is a that tough kind of bad boy mentality kind of player, and
Hmm.
I always laugh whenever he gets that little like quick floater that he'll throw up where it's like super flat all the time, but it goes in like half the
Sure.
time. So you're like,
Sure.
all right, I'll take that any day.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I thought we, like you said, that we did get stronger this year, but maybe it's just because I'm frightened at how all the other teams got much stronger. It's much harder to hold down the throne when you know everybody's coming at you now. So maybe it's that fear in me, or maybe us, that makes us think we may not be as armored up as we'd like to be.
I think two things are at play here. Number one, Anthony Davis was not playing well before he got injured.
Sure.
I think now this is relatively speaking, of course, comparing to his past seasons.
Yeah, yeah.
He was a better player for the Lakers last year, both statistically and just his body language, just overall production on the court. This year, it almost seems like, he won a title finally, so it's kind of easing up a little bit. He's saving himself for the playoffs. I can understand that, but when you see a guy who's like 36 years old right next to you, pouring his heart out every game, not taking any rest days, and you're kind of half assing it, and you're 26, 10 years his younger, then I'm just thinking, man, like, that's not a good look.
No,
I
it's
don't know how
not.
you feel, but for me personally, and this is another hot take for you, I liked AD more when he was on New Orleans.
It was more
I
exciting.
thought,
I'll give you that. Yeah.
yeah, he was more exciting, he was hungrier, and it was just kind of cool to see him do as much as possible to will
Yeah.
his team to victory.
Yeah, yeah. And that has to be said when he first entered the league and he became the beacon of New Orleans. We did see it start to go downhill. But then once they had that fantastic year with Cousins there, it just shot
Mm,
back up that excitement and that
mhm,
that that prime AD that you'd expect. It begs
mhm.
the question that do you think AD is kind of taking the easy road now that he's a champion and he locked in that close to 200 mil contract?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say easy road, but I just think he's comfortable.
Mhm.
And when players are comfortable with their situation, there's less of an incentive to keep pushing, to
Sure.
keep maximizing what you do every day. That's why some players are built different than others. Uh,
Oh shit.
LeBron,
Oh,
you good there? You good there, buddy?
that was rough. That was a rough swallow.
Oh God, oh God. Okay, now when LeBron used to say, we're built different, dog. He was also talking about AD, but that was mostly motivational, right? That was trying to say,
Yeah.
hey, we're Lakers, we're champions, we're cut from a different cloth, and we're expected to do great things. This is what we expect from ourselves. But now, just given the situation, I think we truly see the greatness of LeBron when contrasted with what AD was doing for the first half of the season. I think when you have a guy like LeBron James who is not just worried about this year, he's worried about his legacy, right? He's worried about not just being the greatest player of all time, surpassing Michael Jordan, but he's also chasing a ghost, the ghost of Kobe Bryant. He's trying to be the best Laker of all time too. And you know, it's not easy. You can't just rest on your laurels. You can't just be satisfied with a good season. You have to win titles. You have to win the accolades, whether it's an MVP or whatever it may be, Finals MVP. And LeBron knows that, and I think probably that's what I respect about him more than anything else. And that's also something that I think he has in common with Kobe. Kobe, as you know, even when he was on those losing Laker teams in the latter half of his career, after Pau Gasol had left, of course, he was still of the same mindset, right? His mentality was what? Let's play hard. Let's take the guys that we do have and compete. Compete every single night. Westbrook has that mentality as well, but the basketball IQ may not be there for him, but that's a separate matter entirely. So at least for LeBron, his championship mentality kind of rivals that of the Mamba mentality when it comes to winning, and I respect that about LeBron. And when you contrast that with AD's, as I would put it, complacency, I think I'm not as big of a fan of AD now as I was when he was a Pelican. And I'm also interested in seeing, is this just a matter of time? Meaning, yes, Lakers are on kind of a downturn now without AD. They finally won a game after losing a straight four, thanks to Shooter coming back. Is it really just the Lakers kind of resting in fifth gear and waiting until the playoffs to push it to sixth gear? Maybe. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe our fears are just overblown and they're not really warranted. Because we've seen this before, right? I mean, come on. You look back at old Laker teams, especially after a back-to-back title. How often do you see the Lakers kind of fall in the standings, right? No longer make it as the first place overall team. They're kind of in the third pocket, the fourth pocket. Maybe that's what's going to happen this year. And perhaps more so than any other year, it is acceptable for the Lakers not to have home court advantage. Why? Because the fans are not really going to be there. I
Sure.
think a major part of home court advantage is having like 20,000 fans packed in an arena cheering for you, rocking the colors, and really propelling you to a win. Now, yes, they're moving around, so they may get some more rest, right, in their own homes instead of a hotel. But I think if you even if you ask the players, right, do you care about getting home court advantage throughout the playoffs? They might say, it would be nice, sure, but it's not the same.
Mhm.
So my personal belief is yes, AD isn't having a great year. LeBron's being really tested now, but ultimately, even if they lose a lot of games in the regular season, as long as they make the playoffs, I think they'll kick it into that championship gear. I think LeBron will bring it for sure. AD, he has to step up. He hasn't stepped up at all this season. He'll step up in the playoffs. And I hope that we see the Lakers that we were hoping on seeing when we saw the signing, Trezorel and Dennis Schroeder. I hope we see that formidable tag team coming off the bench, along with the formidable dynamic duo starting in the Lakers lineup. So we'll see, man. I think time will tell. When the playoffs begin, it is a new ball game for sure. Um, but back to the All-Star competition. I think we're both in agreement that yes, Domantas Sabonis was the right person to pick to replace Kevin Durant. He deserved it. I think Devin Booker, it makes sense. He's both a fan favorite, as well as he's having a good year too on a good Phoenix team. Did you think there were any other snubs out there besides those two? Those two were the biggest for me, but can you think of anybody else?
Tough. Jimmy Butler, just for his accolades before, but he isn't having a good season, so that's definitely not one or a warranted one, nor one that I'd like to talk about. Minnesota is basically all fucked up except for Ant-Man, so he's too young. We'll give him the Roy Award, and then we'll move forward from there.
Okay, no, we won't. Yeah.
Let me see.
There's a one in the East for sure that we're overlooking.
Who am I forgetting? What team?
Milwaukee.
Oh, with Middleton?
I think so. I mean, granted, Milwaukee hasn't done as well as they typically do in the regular season so far.
Sure.
But Middleton's been playing phenomenal basketball. If you look at his numbers, man.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody. Yeah.
And ever since he signed that contract, he got even more or even better, which is not atypical, but it's still something you would expect, which is phenomenal. I'm just not a fan of Middleton. That's just me not giving him the light of day. Maybe if I looked into it more, I'd become more of a fan. But for now,
sure.
Yeah.
That's okay. So I think for the most part, though.
Oh, there's another one in the East. Trey.
Nah.
You don't like Trey? You're not a big fan of Trey?
Is he on a playoff team?
Does that really? I mean, no, but
no.
But he's solid. I mean, do you like him more than you like Kyrie more? Oh, I like this question.
I think, and I'll give you a political answer. I think playoff teams, especially top two teams in the East, should be rewarded with multiple All-Stars.
Okay. What is it? Counter that. Why'd Zion make it? Well, Zion's a cover, so Zion's cool. John Morant on the Grizzlies.
Is he on a playoff team?
No, he's not. But Zion isn't either. But I'm just saying. I'm just talking about people that I think maybe could have gone. If there was an extra seat, could have been up for consideration.
I don't think John Morant's worth it, man. I don't think he's having a great year.
But he's willing the team all the time.
To what?
To mediocrity.
Not even. They're trying to get to mediocrity. He's willed them to out of mediocrity, sub mediocrity.
But they're 10th right now. It's not bad.
Yeah,
almost 500.
Almost 500. There you go. I just think John Morant's a good player, but I think it's difficult to pick him as an all-star, right? Sure. Why would you pick him instead of, let's say, Brandon Ingram?
Which, okay. And I'm just looking at the standings. Can you believe the Spurs are 5th right now?
No, I really can't.
Dude, is that true? Yeah, they're 5th. Wow. They're 17 and 12.
Oh, wow.
One step up from the Trailblazers. So if that's it just shows how coaching can be amazing.
But what's just wild to me? The West is so stacked this year that the Nuggets are 8th, dude.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean that's a toss up between the Mavs and their I'm trying to project here. Grizzlies, yeah, okay, we could leave them where they are. Pelicans, unfortunately, I don't see them climbing too much. And the Rockets are now garbage. Timberwolves are a shit show. Kings, maybe that's time to turn them into the Supersonics sometime soon.
Ooh.
Thunder, dude. Well, in a couple years, Thunder. This all makes sense.
The biggest surprise to me is actually the Warriors. I really didn't think that even a healthy Curry and a healthy Draymond could get them into the playoffs so convincingly. Because right now, I think we would both agree it's difficult to imagine them dropping out of the top 8. You know,
Yeah,
they've won. Let's see, they're on
3-win streak.
3-win streak. They've won 7 out of the last 10, which is pretty impressive. And it looks like Curry is playing at an MVP level.
Oh, hell yeah.
Draymond,
Your
your
favorite
car
guy?
name as well. Yeah, he's playing the best basketball of this particular, 1 or 2 week stretch that he's having in his whole last 2 or 3 seasons. So he's in his peak right now. He's for sure playing great Golden State Warrior basketball. And I'd love to see them make the playoffs again so they can get smashed by the Lakers in the first round. I just love to see it. I'm just so sick of the Warriors in general for like being in the finals for like 3-4 years straight.
Yeah.
Might as well have the Lakers get their revenge in the playoffs in
Sure,
the first round,
sure.
go through them. And that'd be an easy out too. I think 4-game sweep probably for any team. Now the Nuggets though, what do you make of this? Why do you think the Nuggets are so bad?
I don't know. I like the Nuggets as a team. I'm not going to root against them if they're playing against my team. But I mean, I don't think they're lacking chemistry. I don't think they're lacking talent. It's confusing because they have the pieces, but maybe it's just because it's up against a stacked Western Conference where it's unfortunate that that team stands where it does. So is there an injury there? No, right?
I think all the major players are healthy.
Yeah.
So,
So like Murray,
yeah.
Murray's not playoff Murray, but he's still being fantastic in the regular season. Michael Porter Jr. He's steadily going into his role. Not as much of a huge bump as we may have expected in the off season, but still something. I don't know.
It is kind of a cryptic mystery, if you will, what's going on with the Nuggets. And sometimes you have to decrypt what's going on to truly understand the full breadth, the full gamut of a situation. And one of our favorite followers and a great guest of the show, friend of the show, Leroy Tung, he wanted me and you to discuss something that he found very interesting. So let me bring up a article by Jeff Benson from decrypt.co. Doesn't sound very reputable to me, but perhaps more so than the Oxford Student Journal. This was written.
How dare you? How dare you? Those are like 3 of our 9 fans.
I know. So this is February 9th, 2021. And basically, this article goes into NBA's Spencer Dinwiddie, who is the now injured point guard of the Brooklyn Nets, dishing on his crypto-based app for creators. And quite frankly, I'm still a little bit foggy as to the details and the real ins and outs of this, but essentially, he wanted to build more value and grow more value through his NBA contract by tokenizing part of it. And I guess this is a trend that's been happening with a lot of different celebrities now and sports athletes, where they allow fans and anybody, I guess, to invest in themselves, to invest in the creators, the talented artists out there, and watch them grow over time and actually get some financial gain, some financial return for it. So, this was a very new idea. And, this system is built on something that you're very familiar with, the Hedera hash graph, which, of course, is a distributed ledger technology similar to a blockchain, which, you're pretty much the expert on blockchain. After bourbon, it's blockchain for you, night and day, right?
Of course.
And, this is something that, he's been working on for some time, and he wanted to raise about $13 million from tokenizing part of his contract. But unfortunately, he was only able to raise about 1.3 million. And not only that, I think the value of his tokens are actually going down because he's not playing games, and the Brooklyn Nets might even trade him soon. So he's becoming a bit of an NBA journeyman. It's the funny thing too. He wanted to raise 13.5 mil by selling 90 tokens of his particular SD26 professional athlete token. Only 9 were sold. And him testing positive for COVID-19 back in June of last year was not a good look either. So there was a lot of different issues going on. But one thing that I was thinking, if you're really going to take this to another level, if you're going to try to do something like this, I think it makes more sense to get a younger player like a LaMelo Ball, who you're fond of, and also Zion Williamson. If you get those guys to tokenize a part of their contract, I think with the legions of fans that follow them already on social media, you could get a bit of a, you know, Reddit field rally going on for them. And that could probably propel their cryptocurrencies into the stratosphere, at least temporarily. And who knows, maybe if you're in the long game, it could make sense as well. Zion, surely he'll have multiple All Stars. He might even be an MVP someday. You never know. LaMelo Ball, he looks like he'll have a brighter career than his brother Lonzo. He's a good investment as well. So I think there's a lot to be said about this. But what do you think in general about the idea of tokenizing part of your contract?
Definitely revolutionary, and it's probably a good introduction, at least for what Dinwiddie is doing, to the future possibilities of what contracts can become, right? Because as you were speaking, talking so eloquently, I was beginning to think of how can we adapt this to a team's cap, right? Where instead of just dollars now, you have a different currency by which you can trade, where it's not just what the team or owner value is to a player, but what is the player value to the fans. And maybe you could attribute that sort of cap in this kind of token cap where you can't have too many fan favorites. And in doing so, if the NBA were to implement something of this sort, it would help, I think, spread the evenness of favorability of players amongst the whole league, and maybe bring a little bit of a kind of like a spreading effect, so that there aren't too many teams that are so heavily invested in star players, or at least well-liked players. And then it begs me to think of, okay, well, they kind of have something like that, or it's called team chemistry, right? At least from the player's perspective, there'll be players that will be brought onto rosters just for what they do in the locker room. Cousins being a key person right now, or Dudley, another one, or even what's Philly cheesesteak's name? That's no longer with us. Played in Miami. Either way.
Wait, Philly cheesesteak?
Yeah, you know, fuck. He was on the Lakers last year. I'm not sure if he's still playing. Came from Miami, or had a solid time in Miami.
Oh, I mean, I'll take your word for it. I just don't recall a player known as Philly cheesesteak.
Philly cheesesteak. Philly cheesesteak. You don't know Philly cheesesteak?
Man, I don't snack on lasagna.
Dion Waiters.
Oh, okay. He's known as Philly cheesesteak.
Yeah. Well, that was their inside joke in the bubble. Right?
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I wasn't even. When I got invited, I'm sorry, they only provided one ticket, so I couldn't really get you.
Gotcha. You were catering.
I was making it happen, making it work.
I hear you. Yes.
But I think it would be interesting because if I think about it, why couldn't Dinwiddie do this with his own contract, money, receivings? You know, why is he trying to sort of intertwine it within the NBA's payment structure, or within the NBA structure itself, right? Because I'm sure there would be companies out there like a sports-like or sports-focused Bitcoin equivalent that would say, hey, that's a good idea. Let's get all the athletes and then apply tokens to them and sell them, like similar to how you would sell trading cards. But I don't know. I feel like if you tie it to a contract, it seems like it would ebb and flow too much, where, you know, what happens in the beginning of the year where you have a bench guy who suddenly propels himself to the starting lineup and becomes star quality. Does the value of that token increase, and are there any repercussions to the team's overall financial structure? That's where it gets a little hazy for me.
Yeah, you know, I was reading a little bit about this from a slightly different article, and And basically, this goes a little bit deeper. Dinwiddie even said on Twitter, if fans donated about, at the time, let's say 2,600 bitcoins to his GoFundMe, he would let the fans pick who he signs to next. Like
Oh
apparently,
shit!
yeah, like it was going to go to that level.
So it's totally. Sorry, the first thing that came to mind is like you're whoring yourself out, saying
In a
like,
way,
right?
in a way, it's like you're selling parts of your contract, and you're also giving the fans a decision in the
Yeah,
matter.
it's
Like
almost
they're,
like you're buying equity in me, in my
yeah,
decision making, so long as it pertains to this particular craft.
yeah,
That's fantastic.
and
But see, but then what happens when a person or a player retires? What happens to that value?
I mean, these are great questions, and to be
Right?
honest, there's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
answer. It's
Sure.
unprecedented, and of course, some NBA regulators don't like this idea. I think the legalities of it might be kind of shaky because some people were arguing that Dinwiddie was trying to evade monetary inflation by by having all of his money tied up in these bitcoins, right?
Sure, sure.
So it's kind of a new thing. But Leroy, thank you for sharing this one, and I apologize because I know you tried to explain it to me on Messenger a couple of times. I for the life of me, I still don't quite understand. And probably what I broke down for our legions of fans today, what Don and I went through, was inaccurate. I'm sure we left out a lot of information,
You
but
know, we got
you
there.
know,
We got there.
we got the gist of it. I think. I think it's an interesting idea. I'm just surprised that more athletes haven't tried it. Like, why is Dinwiddie the first one?
Well, because all the other people that are making money have made money. Like they don't need to worry about doing this sort of thing.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Dinwiddie's having a tough time.
He's like, oh man, I'm working with how much million? I gotta invest. I've been listening to
I
Nipsey way too much. You know?
I know. But as Dinwiddie likes to say, he can't give away the entire sauce, right? He has to keep some things close to the vest. And we hope that you enjoyed this episode of the SoCal DNA. And the All-Star game is going to be going down next Sunday. We'll definitely be giving you guys our reaction to that and our feedback to that.
Mm-hmm.
And before we sign off here, do you think Zion Williamson is number one going to join the slam dunk competition? And number two, is he guaranteed to win if he joins? Pretty much hands down.
Yes and yes.
There you have it, my friends. Until next time, see you later, and keep that sauce secret.